my video. Welcome to episode 6 of Amiga Retro. This episode we're going to be covering, by request I might add, Turrican. But not just Turrican, the original game, but Turrican 2 and Turrican 3. So, basically what is Turrican? Okay. Turrican was a 1990s video game produced by Manfred Trenz. It was the first developed for the Commodore 64 by Rainbow Arts. Everybody's heard of them, but was ported to other systems later. In addition to the concept design and character creation, Trenz personally programmed Turrican 1 and 2 on the C64, and then obviously it was then later updated for the Amiga, which is the version we have here. Turrican was described as a cross between Metroid and Psychonauts Oscar. While the huge detailed labyrinth levels and morph ball function were inspired by Metroid, the overall graphics design and weapons were inspired by Psychonauts Oscar. Unlike many other action games of its time, Turrican didn't just force the players to complete a linear level. The real thrill was for the player to fully explore the entire level of the game and uncover every secret spot, hidden room, invisible passage, etc, etc, etc. The name Turrican itself is based on Turricano. It's an Italian name which Trenz found surprisingly enough in a phone book. There was a rumour that Turricano being the name of a pizzeria Trenz used to visit quite regularly, but this has been proven false. However, he did visit a pizzeria called Katakis, which is the planet that Turrican is actually set on. The first demo of Turrican 1 on the C64 was called Hurricane. Do the math, don't ask me why. The Turrican series is well known as high quality of their soundtracks, most notably in the Turrican 2 soundtrack on the Amiga composed by Chris Hulsbeck. Music from Turrican 2 was performed live by a full orchestra at the Second Symphonic Game Music Concert in 2004. That event took place in Leipzig in Germany. Fucking good event as well. Actually, if you go back to one of the earlier Amiga Retros, the 2005 music game concert was also held. I think that was held in Munich, and we had Press Play on Tape on stage there performing Cannon Fodder. Anyway, very good. If you ever do a Google search on the Symphonic Game Music concert, they have one every year. It is an absolutely fantastic event, and they always have highlights of it on the internet. Anyway, back to Turrican. First off, Turrican 1. This started the series back in 1990 on the C64. Turrican 1 became very popular due to its high technical achievements, demonstrating graphics which many did not believe were even possible on the C64, let alone the Amiga back in the day. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it was mainly by Manfred Trenz and published by Rainbow Arts. The Amiga conversion was produced by Fact 5. And the following people are credited with the C64 version of Turrican in the Amiga version, and that is idea, programming and graphics art by Manfred Trenz, obviously, producer Mark L. Ulrich, music by Ramiro Vega and Stefan Hartwig, and obviously Chris Hulsbeck for the Amiga, sound effects by Adam Bulka, sound routines by Chris Hulsbeck, Adam Bulka and Oliver Belznick, and digital routines by Joren Tell. Turrican 1 was also released on the Atari ST, the CD-TV, the Mega Drive Genesis, the PC Engine, the ZX Spectrum, and the Amstrad CPC 464. The console ports were handled by Accolade. Now, Accolade was very famous for making the Test Drive series. Sub-song from Turrican 1 is actually the song Escape from the Transformers the Movie soundtrack. It is actually the same one. Sub-song 2 from the Turrican 1 soundtrack is actually the song Escape from the Transformers the Movie soundtrack. That's one of the reasons why I was very fond of Turrican, because I'm a big Transformers fan also. I actually went and checked that to make sure as well, because when I first read this, I thought, hang on a minute, they're having a laugh here. Yeah, it's true. The song escaped from the Transformers the movie soundtrack. Not the new film coming out, the original cartoon film. It's the same song. Anyway, getting back to what we're saying. Romero Barker was responsible for the C64 score, including the cover of the song Escape in Subsong 2. Citation was needed there because of the copyright law. Chris Husbeck composed the Amiga conversion of Turrican 1, 2 and 3, as well as Mega Turrican for the Mega Drive and Genesis, and Super Turrican for the Super NES. The title screen for Turrican is said to have been based upon Man of War, the Man of War album cover, Kings of Metal, supposedly. Moving on, because we are going to be covering Turrican 2 as well. Actually, there's a screenshot. In fact, I'll download this screenshot. Yes, if you do a search for the Man of War cover and Turrican 2 and look at the Turrican cover, they are similar. I mean, I'll show you. Turrican, Man of War. Turrican, Man of War. God, they are similar. Anyhow, getting back to what we were saying. You can tell this is a low budget production. Turrican 2. Turrican 2 was released in 1991, and this was solely for the Amiga by Factor 5. It was finished before the C64 version, but Manfred 10 cites that the C64 version as the original design for Turrican 2. Turrican 2 was also released on the CDT TV, the ST, the PC, yes, the Amstrad, and the ZX Spectrum. The PC targets the MS-DOS operating system, but it can be run under DOSBox in Windows or in Linux. A conversion for the Mega Drive / Genesis. I'm going to say this right now. Everybody out there who actually watches this show should know that a Mega Drive is a Genesis and a Genesis is a Mega Drive. So I'm going to use, because I'm British, I'm going to use the term Mega Drive from now on, okay? It was released for the Mega Drive, it was released for the Game Boy, and again was produced by Accolade, who kept the rights for the console ports for the franchise. But at a later stage, they also acquired the rights to produce the game spin-off, a game spin-off called Jean-Claude Van Damme Movie Universal Soldier, and decided to rebrand the game. Yeah, Universal Soldier was based on Turrican. In fact, it is Turrican, just renamed. Turrican's sprite was changed into a marine, and several other substitutions were made. Amongst others, the eyeballs walking on fingers became mini tanks instead of large mech steel dragon. In the first stage, the player now faces a large representation of Dolph Lundgren's character in the movie. Basically, they took Turrican and kitbashed it, yeah, to produce Universal Soldier. It's basically Turrican with different graphics. The 3 shoot-em-up stages would have probably been cut out of the port so that developers could replace it with the 3 original stages, blah blah blah. I don't really want to go on about Universal Soldier port, so let's forget about that bit. Yeah, there is also a Super Nintendo version of Turrican 2 that was almost finished, but never reached the commercial release. And nowadays can be found only as beta. The Mega Drive version, though, and the Game Boy versions were the only console ports that were finally released. So. Now, Turrican 3, which I confess to I cannot play to save the life of. Also known as Mega Turrican. Turrican 3, or Mega Turrican as it was known on some platforms, was originally by Factor 5. Designed for them, and it was initially designed for the Mega Drive. It later was followed by an Amiga port, so this was the first version of the Turrican games that was actually designed for the consoles first, not the Amiga or any other subsequent computer. However, despite not being the original, the Amiga version was one of the first commercially released. So So it was one of the first, versions of the game that was commercially released in 1993, published by Rainbow Arts in Germany and Renegade in the rest of Europe. The Mega Drive version didn't have a publisher and stayed unreleased until 1994 when Data East carried it over its worldwide distribution. Data East itself released the game in North America and contracted Sony ImageSoft for its distribution in Europe. Turrican 3 also featured slightly toned down graphics and poorer backgrounds than the Mega Drive version on the Amiga. But on the other hand, it had better sounding soundtrack. Well, given the poor chips and the Atlas chips and all that, the Amiga was far superior for sound quality anyway than the consoles of the day. In general terms, the game features are much smaller levels to the original Amiga Turrican games and has much chunkier sprites. But compensating for these are many new effects and graphical improvements, and a major focus on the shooting action. The lightning whip also, from the first two games, is gone and has been replaced by a grappling hook. How can you have a grappling hook in Turrican? I mean, come on, alright, it's good, yeah, it's alright, you want to climb walls and stuff like that, but it's Turrican, for crying out loud. Anyhow, Turrican 3 for the C64 is a fan game and was released on August 28, 2004 as a demo party Evo by the group Smash Designs. So if you do a Google search for Smash Designs, you can find a C64 emulated version of it. It was never released as an official game, it was done as a fan release. Finally, which I'm not covering in this, but I'll give it a nice mention anyway, Super Turrican. The Super Turrican games were independent developments for the Super NES. This is for all you console buffs out there who like the SNES. They were independent developments for the SNES, both of them again done by Factor 5, who did the first two, the Turrican games on the Amiga. The first being published by Seika and the second being done by Ocean. Now there's a name we haven't heard for a while. Super Turrican plays similar to Mega Turrican, which was the same as Turrican 3, and shares similar visual style. The game has a different set of levels, however, and features a freeze beam in place of the original lightning whip. Super Turrican 2 featured more action than the first, partly due to many Mode 7 effects, but sacrificed the big levels in original Turrican game style. There is also an unrelated Super Turrican for the NES, which was created by Manfred Trans again. Again, the same guy who originally created the concept of Turrican for the C64 also did an NES version of it. It was unrelated completely to the actual whole franchise. It is based roughly on the levels of the first two Turrican games though. Finally, there was another game called Tornado, and it was never released. The Turrican spin-off by Factor 5, planned for release on the Nintendo GameCube, was supposed to become the successor to the Turrican series, but sadly it was never released. All that was available from this game was a piece of preliminary music composed by Chris Hülsbeck and some art assets that were reused in Star Wars Rebel Strike. Yeah. So if you played Star Wars Rebel Strike, some of the art assets were actually reused for that. Why waste a game? Recycle. Such as the Golden Gate light-looking bridge. From that game, from Rebel Strike, the Golden Gate looking bridge, originally from Tornado, which was a spin-off from the Turrican series. The Tornado demo track, which was released as a teaser for the upcoming GameCube, was in fact running on the older Nintendo 64 sound hardware using Factor 5's new proprietary Musi X software and sound engine. The Tornado demo, although not available on Factor 5's website anymore, can still be found on the internet or by popular peer-to-peer networks such as, which I cannot say for legal reasons, but just do a search for it, you'll find it. Anyway, I hope that's a bit of a history into the Turrican series. Now what I'm going to do for you is I've got a little bit of a montage. I don't know how long I've been ranting on here for, but I don't care. If you like the Amiga Retro and you like the Amiga Retro games, you're going to watch it. Basically, coming up now, we've got some game footage from all 3 of the original Amiga versions of the Turrican game. So, kick back, grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a smoke, grab yourself something to eat, and enjoy the footage. I'll see you in episode 7. Until then, this is Mindwipe. Take care.
Welcome to Turrican!
right